Okay, there we go. Making sure everything's working right now. And it looks like everything is working fine. Seems quite nice. Alright. Alright. Looks like we're doing good. Hope you guys are doing well on this fine day today. It is not too long before the next half of the season starts. About 2 days, give or take. How you guys feeling about that? You guys excited? I don't know if I'll do a stream day 1 of it, but I'll try and do a stream where I get some games in as Black Cat, but I'm not really good with those kinds of characters. Those like melee dive-esque characters, like can't play Spider, can't play Daredevil, can't play Black Panther. I cannot do anything. Can't play Fist. Like, it'd be fun to try out, but I don't think I'd stick around as them long. Unlike like the other character that came out, White Fox. So many characters I have close to Lord. I have you at level 11. You're at level 12. You're at level 14. That's actually aggravating. You're my only Lord in all of the time I've spent playing this game. Level 12. It's because I play a lot of, like, variety. I have a hard time really, like, locking down on one person. I'm usually playing a lot of people. I'm gonna progress on the squirrel. Maybe one of these days I'll do like a video. A video? No, I don't have the equipment to do videos, but a dusty ass capture card. I don't know. I'd have to think of something for that, but I do have software now though, so that's kind of neat. But maybe one of these days I'll do streams, maybe videos, just the highlights where I kind of cobble together what am I yapping about? Right. Apologies, it's early in the morning, I'm waking up right now, but maybe one of these days in the future I'll do a stream where like I really sit down and I just do a whole bunch of games as a character to try and learn them. Maybe try and improve as them, because right now my roster is not that impressive. I've honestly not played much of any Penny recently. Like, my Iron Man's my only DPS I really play, but he's kinda, I can play Gambit, but he's banned every fucking game. I don't help with that. Play a little bit as Captain America, which is who's gonna get a funny team up soon, so that's neat. I'm able to play a bit as Tank Pool, and I can play White Fox quite well. Oh, I don't don't know if I do quite well. I do alright. But yeah, it'd probably be fun to just sit down and really grind out learning one of these characters for a stream. Like maybe, I don't know. What's a character I'm interested in playing? Maybe Elsa. She's gonna get shot out back like in a couple days. Maybe characters like Phoenix. Oh, maybe I could do a Squirrel Girl game. Maybe we could see what they know. I do want to get better as Rogue. Just have that in my back pocket. And I also want to go back into getting better as Penny again. Because I used to be quite a bit of a danger as Penny, but nowadays I've kind of lost that. So I'd like to maybe reignite that at some point. But yeah, if there's any characters you'd want to see me play, sure to let me know and I'll try and do a stream with them. It's probably just gonna be like quick play, if I'm being honest. Like, it's just gonna be running quick plays. I doubt I'll do competitive. Like, I didn't even want to get to Platinum. But, you know, I was so close, I was just like, you know what, I'll just run like a couple games and get there. I'm gonna have to play more ranked, like, in the couple days. So that I can get to, so I can get the other skin coming out. I get this skin, which is... it's alright. Though I prefer the, is that a cyan? Yeah, that's more of... it's not quite cyan. Yeah, cyan's a little bit, I guess, brighter? Anyway, I've been yapping a lot. I'm doing the streamer thing where I just kind of yap for a bit and don't actually get into what we're doing. I'm just taking it as a minute to wake up. Apologies, everyone. Apologies for that. But, you know, if you guys have any characters you want to see me try and learning better at, you be sure to let me know. It would make for fun ideas for stream. Alright, so, today, because the season is ending, so I have reason to believe that some of the replay codes I have will be expiring soon. So here's what we're gonna do. Today and tomorrow are going to be just replay days. Or at least I'm gonna try and get through as many as I can today. And then tomorrow, if there's an excessive amount left over, I will try and get through the rest that day. So I have... actually, we might be able to power through the rest I have here today. I only have 4 more codes that I got from good old Xandarin, who is now following the stream. Appreciate you. But, be sure to check him out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Xandarin. But, I have 4 more codes from him, and we are going to be casting those matches. We're just gonna start trying to get into it. If you guys don't know what this is about, why are you here? But, I'm kidding. But if you don't know what this is about, this is a idea I had where I take games submitted to me and I cast over them as if they are actual things, and I'm thinking of maybe adding a little bit of like post-game commentary as well. Mainly just as a way to like ease my voice back down after each match. However, still saying something to provide so that you guys aren't sitting here in silence. Because the first stream I did of this, I felt quite a bit of damage to my voice. That was a couple days ago, and to be honest, I still kind of feel the effects of it a little bit. I am very impressed with the commentators for actual live tournament events and how they are able to keep doing that. It is definitely a talent, one that I wish I had. I am trying my best here, but you know, I'm only human. I actually thought about trying to become a caster for esports tournaments, but I don't think I'd make the cut. I'm not that guy. It'd be fun, but I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. But yeah. So I'd say that without further ado, let's get looking into... Jesus fucking Christ, 8 hours on White Fox, holy... Yeah, see, I just don't play Penny anymore. That's tough. I mean, I'm a White Fox main nowadays, how did that happen? But great. More replays, and we search by ID. Okay, we did that one last time, and... So if you guys don't know, Zan has sent me short, like, 1-sentence descriptions based on the games. Which one is this? Oh, God damn it. But, I literally have nothing to make of this one. Like, the other ones gave me, like, a semblance of, what would happen in the game. This one doesn't. It's a 5-minute game. Could be easy to do, but... For this one, he just hit me with a... lesbian that's emo, I guess. Take that how you will. Ladies and gentlemen, join us down tonight at Shin Shibuya, Tokyo 2099. As I completely fuck up the entire interface. Right now, teams are currently getting ready to see what games we'll have in store today. Solid team comps from Blue Team, looking for a Phoenix ban here. Red Team looking like they're going to want to go for some sort of dive comp here, yet despite that, they're going to ban White Fox, which is a fascinating decision to ban, especially if you want to run dive, because White Fox can actually enable that quite well from what I found out. She can maintain quite a bit of pressure. However, turns out they don't want to deal with that. Instead, they're going to go for the White Fox and Phoenix bans. Blue Team going to go for a Groot ban. Groot known to be quite oppressive. Red Team going to ban their own Magic player, or Groot, or Hawkeye. Who knows what could happen? Turns out it's the Magic that's banned. Ripped. the magic on the red team. Blue team looking for a cloak and dagger ban, whereas red team is still looking for a Hawkeye ban. Looks like they agree on it. And it looks like the bans will go through. Blue team may be trying to get an Invis ban in there, but it looks like it might be a cloak and dagger ban. And it is. We have
a top-notch team to win this one.
Interesting game going on here. Team comp on red team actually got hit pretty hard by that. The Magic switching to Elsa since she is freed up, so that might be interesting, as well as Gambit. The Invis switching to Loki. Oh, that Loki's name is Emo Lesbian. Okay, that's why. Tank Deadpool and Tank Angela. We have quite an interesting game here. Red team on the offense to start out with. The Spider-Man and Angela might be harassed a bit by blue team's Namor, and they might have a hard time breaking in with both Magneto and Doctor Strange as the tanks. However, we'll just have to see how that goes with Invis and Rocket as supports, whereas red team does have a little bit of a better lineup. I don't know. Actually, maybe not Loki for this kind of comp, but we will see how it goes as red team is starting to head on out. Spider-Man trying to make a play, hanging out top, getting lit up by the Punisher. Right now, it looks like Elsa is trying to cause a little bit of damage, trying to build up her ult a bit, maybe a little bit of her meter. He's currently behind the red team, however, they are able to respond quite well. Punisher getting harassed by the Spider-Man. Spider-Man's doing his job, keeping one of the DPSs out, however, that's not going to save him. Magneto trying to hold the defensive line here. Trying to push in, sees a weak Loki, trying to get that, however, the Deadpool is trying to keep him out. Spider-Man coming in to try and deal some damage to the front, as the Rocket Raccoon is getting harassed by Deadpool. Rocket goes down as Deadpool also goes down. However, that is a support down that could cause a bit of trouble if Blue Team doesn't reposition here to account for it. Looks like Elsa trying to get a pick on Magneto, but is unable to. Elsa trying to continue to fire into that line, but is unable to really make any play really happen. Invis has her ult ready to fire at any time, whereas it doesn't really look like red team has a direct answer to it currently. Great ult economy on the Invis there. Doctor Strange and Magneto continuing to hold that front line as Namor's turret does take down the, what was it, the Elsa? Gambit ult from the Loki, I believe. Or am I crazy? As it looks like the Invis ult goes up to try and retaliate against it. It does look like both the second supports on both teams still have them. However, blue team does have quite a bit more ults that they can use to swing momentum at any time if they want. Elsa goes down to the Magneto, who is not even shooting at her. Just kind of walked into his shots there, as it looks like red team is trying to get some sort of push in. However, this spot is quite difficult to get into. However, the Gambit ult might be the momentum they need. Rocket ult going up to try and fend it off. However, both work from Magneto and the Namor stop that attack as they start cleaning things up. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think red team is going to be getting in here. I'm going to be honest. It does not look like a good game for them.
Only 60 seconds
However,
left.
switching to the Wanda here as Elsa fires off her ult, trying to make something happen. We have a Thing into Namor, which is a fascinating decision. Not what I would pick in this situation, but we'll see how it goes. As Thor goes down, they're trying to go a bit further into dive. However, I don't think that's going to work, but it might actually. With the rocket down, as well as the tanks taking quite a bit of damage. Punisher out of position. Punisher gets taken out by the Thing. Loki falling back, as it does look like that attack was broken again. Unfortunately, red team does look like that unless that portal goes down, and it is a big one. The only ult they have here is the Thing ult. Magneto trying to keep them out currently, as Doctor Strange is currently fighting his demons right now, going after the Elsa, killing them, as it looks like he takes out the clone there. Namor looking at the Doctor Strange, trying to pick off the tanks. Clobbering time stuns the whole team. However, it does not matter, as the Gambit still goes down, followed by the Thing, and then the Loki, as we close out this first round.
0-2-0. Time to switch things up, including which side you're on.
Ladies and gentlemen, great first round by blue team. Does seem, however, that we might be coming close to the end of this first game. Red team's got to try and make something happen here. They got to figure something out in order to defend against this. Their response is to switch the tanks up. They're going for a Rogue and a Penny. A fascinating decision. I'm not going to call it out just yet. Maybe there's a play to be made there. Rogue could just kick them into Penny Mines. However, will they have the cohesion to do something like that? Blue team gonna be waiting here, getting ready for the next play, as we look at the red team, as it looks like the Elsa is not really willing to play this round. That is unfortunate. Interesting things happening, as looks like the Penny doesn't want to play this game either. What is she doing, chat? As it looks like red team's cohesion has completely fallen apart, as they are just done. They want out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, is that the end of this match? Is that all they are going to be willing to do? Looks like blue team's coming in for the pressure on the red team, with Rogue coming in, trying to take as much abuse as she can. However, despite being a tank, she does not have that much going for her in terms of survivability, as it looks like Namor is just going to be eating good, cleaning up Penny DCs, unfortunately. And it looks like with that one team fight, it's over.
Final score 1-2-0.
Unfortunate that there was a DC there, I'm gonna be honest. But the way blue team played, they played a great defense that they could not break into. Especially with a very defense-focused comp as well, from the looks of it. They were able to respond to the plays of red team quite well, honestly. And they were able to live quite a bit through it. So that has been our first game of the stream. We're going to take a minute to talk about some things that happened in the game, and then we're going to go into the next game. Is this padding? Yeah. God. Alright, so what are some things we could take away from this match, chat? Both teams had Gambit open. Let's start with that. That was a interesting thing to see. But it turns out it was not actually the deciding factor, if I'm being honest. Red team was the only one really using Gambit, and it didn't really lead to... They were able to pressure blue team, however, they just weren't able to break. What else do we have here? The DC is, admittedly a little underwhelming. However, that is just how ranked goes, I already know. As for plays made by both teams, I think that the Punisher's positioning was quite interesting. I've not seen that before from at least games I've played. And I thought that was quite nice, and it probably would have been quite oppressive too had the enemy team's Spidey not been constantly chipping away at him, causing him to shift his focus to the Spider-Man, which on the turret, I don't think Punisher hits. Namor continues to be quite oppressive in these replays. That is a trend I notice with Zan's games. Fun fact, he plays a lot of Namor when he plays DPS. So he's become quite good at him, and so his Namor has become quite oppressive in a lot of the games that we see, so that does tend to be quite a bit of a factor. The tanks played quite well that game for the blue team as well. They weren't really they weren't giving the enemy team any space, and if they did, they were able to just get it right back immediately. I thought it was really funny that the Elsa got domed by Magneto when he wasn't even going for her. But yeah. Nice first game for us to start out. A little warm-up for me. Let me have a bit more of my coffee real quick. Alright. So, we are going to be going into the next match submitted to us here. Let's take a look at what we got here, and let's read the caption that we got, and it is no ult rocket. So that is going to be quite interesting. I believe this is the game, so let us get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, join us here at Yggdrasil's Path, where yet again, blue team and red team decide who is continuing on and who is going home a loser. Ladies and gentlemen, interesting picks from both blue and red team. You don't see a Mr. Fantastic every day. You do see Gambit bans every day, though, as well as Cloak and Dagger bans as well. White Fox trying to get banned is interesting. However, I do think the Cloak and Dagger is more impressive, but the White Fox ban goes through. Anyway, enemy teams going for a Cloak and Dagger or Namor ban, that could be a problem for our fellows. Looks like both teams want Cloak and Dagger gone, however red team is also willing to ban Groot as well as a compromise. As for who the bans go for, both teams get the Cloak and Dagger ban. Now we are looking at a Groot ban and a Phoenix ban, which is quite understandable. As we see the bans go through, and we can take a look at the final teams that are
You'll need a
picked
top-notch
here.
team to win this one.
Looking like Mag, Tankpool, Moon Knight, Elsa, Invis, and Rocket on the blue team, as well as on the red team. We got a Tankpool, a Punisher, a Emma Frost, Mr. Fantastic, and looks like we're fighting to see what supports we want. We got an Invis, and we got a Jeff the Land Shark. So, let's try and take a look at what we are going to be dealing with today. Love that Elsa skin. Big fan of it.
30
As
seconds before you attack.
we start
Get
to
ready.
get ready to defend blue team.
Like your style, Knight.
Their defense is going to be quite... It's probably going to be relatively simple to deal with. Their team is going to be probably clumped together, all things considered, especially if they want to get a bit of rocket
Battle starts in
value.
5, 4,
And
3, 2,
Elsa as an
1.
Elsa? Emma as a main tank is also probably going to be a decent play. Deadpool running in the front, trying to get a bit of pressure in on the enemy team. Rocket currently firing down lane as Emma is currently jumping around, trying to get some sort of position as she is applying pressure to the enemy team in her own way. The Moon Knight gets a kill on the Deadpool as Moon Knight is currently harassing the backline with his Onks, currently applying quite a bit of pressure as blue team is pushed up to their spawn. Blue team, Magneto, Moon Knight, Invis, all getting picks on the red team as red team is struggling to break out right now. Looks like they're having a bit of trouble right now. Punisher mounting up on the turret in spawn so he won't take any damage. Interesting play to try and get them to back up. However, it doesn't look like he's hitting too much here. Mr. Fantastic coming in, trying to make something work. However, this Moon Knight is being quite oppressive. He's got his ult ready. Is he going to use it? He's looking for something as he fires it off right there, killing the Emma Frost. Emma Frost gets revived by the Rocket Beacon. Mr. Fantastic trying to go in, trying to make space for his team, trying to apply a bit of damage. Looks like the blue team's Rocket ult goes up to try and help out the team. It helps them maintain that position. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like red team's going to be able to deal with this defense. It's quite oppressive, honestly. And without enough forward force, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get in. Punisher goes off. He's trying to do something, but he gets shredded by the Moon Knight and the enemy team. Already, Invisult goes up to make sure that the team is safe. It's fantastic. Mr. Fantastic trying to make something play. Going for their back line as he tries to run back. The Glatra is released as Mr. Fantastic actually holds it back. That is interesting to see as Mr. Fantastic continues to push forward. Deadpool goes down. Jeff tries to stop him. Or wait, no, that was their Jeff. Tries to spit out the Deadpool, however, it doesn't really go anywhere as the Deadpool is able to get back to his team quite safely. Mr. Fantastic pushed into a corner here, trying to help something out, but he goes down quite quickly. Moon Knight goes down. He was being quite oppressive there, as it looks like Blue Team is starting to Blue Team is starting to make something happen here with Mr. Fantastic getting the 2 people into that room. That was less people they had defending, but the Rocket Ult goes up and they are able to make up for lost ground. Blue Team's defense, despite having a little bit of a slip up there, is still quite dominant. Looks like the Mr. Fantastic switching to Human Torch in an attempt to try and harass their territory, looking to try and get some sort of chip damage in on them, hoping to make something work here. As the Magneto does go down, however, the Rocket Beacon does bring them back, as Blue Team's Deadpool is currently trying to follow up onto their Punisher, but the Punisher takes them down as the peasants begin kneeling, but the Moon is no peasant. Invisult goes up to try and save their team, however, looks like the Jeff is going down, as well as the Emma Frost. Human Torch, bright like a star, whereas the Punisher does things his way. They're expending a lot of ults to try and break in. Surely the Rocket ult goes down at some point to assist the team, as it looks like they're finally starting to gain a little bit of ground here, as it looks like Deadpool is trying to do something to help out, as it looks like Blue Team's Rocket places their amp to continue to help their team, as Deadpool is continuing to rip into them. However, eventually he does go down. Moon Knight set up in the back. Magneto coming to join the fight, as it does look like they're trying to regroup right now. Red Team all stacked up, as if they step off this point, that is going to be it for them, as that could be claimed quite quickly. Tanks are trying to keep the enemy team back, however, it looks like the Glatra is going to try and push them off. It does not push them off, as Red Team tries to retaliate. Rocket's amplifier finally goes down, as Red Team now has more damage and shielding to deal with this defensive play from the Blue Team, as it does look like they're going to be able to get through to the first checkpoint. Very rough start from the Red Team here, however, it looks like they might start trying to get their footing here. They're starting to get a little bit going on. Deadpool getting a pick on the Elsa early fight. That is quite interesting. That plushie is not really going to be blocking too much, however. Emma Frost moving in to try and support the Deadpool, as Rocket spreading out the healing. It looks like Punisher is making a play, however, the Human Torch goes down, and Hela is able to deal with the Punisher on the flank. Right now it's just the supports and the tanks, as tanks are starting to have to fall back, as the entire Blue Team is starting to apply the pressure. Deadpool trying to make something happen, as Emma Frost is currently trying to punch around the entire team, however, nothing's really happening. Emma goes down. Let's look at the Punisher here. Punisher ult is ready, however, with that much damage on him, it doesn't look like he's going to last too long, especially without the full team. Moon Knight's on his way back, as it looks like Blue Team has reset up their defensive line. It's going to be hard for Red Team to break in again. However, they do have Emma ult, they have Punisher ult. However, they have an insane Deadpool that is pressuring them, as Moon Knight comes in, killing the Jeff and the Human Torch. Looks like the Punisher did kill the Magneto, however, he does go down, as it looks like the Hela is cleaning things up right now, as another push broken by the Blue Team. Red Team's gonna have to make something really happen here, and is it going to be this Jeff ult? It does not look like it, unfortunately, as Jeff is punished for that loss. Another rocket ult going down, as it does look like that Deadpool deals with the Hela. However, the Rocket Beacon brings them back, as it seems as if Emma Frost trying to go in, but it doesn't quite work out as she goes down as well. Deadpool currently getting pushed away as Punisher trying to lay onto some pressure. However, fortunately, the defense was too strong for them to break
Time to switch
into.
things up, including which side you're on.
We'll see if Red Team can pull it back for round 2, but there's a chance that it might be just a bit too much for them to handle. Something I've noticed with a few of these higher ranked games is that a good Moon Knight can be quite oppressive if he's left unchecked. As well as it does seem like that Rocket Beacon was kind of deciding a few of the fights, because despite a few of the red team's picks they were able to get, they were few and far between, and that left a lot of time for the Rocket Beacons to provide that teammate with a second chance to support their team. If you think about it, it was kind of a 7v6 there, which was something that the red team just could not deal with. But let's see if they can deal with it on the backswing here as their rocket switches to Luna Frost. Let's see if we can get some sort of good defensive play here. Human Torch quite close to the ground, interestingly, as he starts flying up right into the open as he starts placing down his traps, as he begins burning that area. However, blue team does not look like they care, as Punisher is starting to try and mow down the enemies. However, doesn't really look like he's doing too much there, as it does look like the blue team's Deadpool does get stunned. However, he begins regaining his momentum. That shield, though, does prevent him from getting healed, as the Human Torch does deal with the Hela, but the Rocket Raccoon brings the Hela back as if nothing happened, as looks like Human Torch has to back up, as now the Punisher and the Luna are dead. They're relying on Jeff heals as Deadpool is trying to make something happen. However, the sheer amount of damage they were taking, eventually even the Jeff went down. Red team's defensive line shattered much quicker than blue team's, as blue team looks like they're just gonna grab this unless the Luna comes in, getting shredded by the Moon Knight. However, in comes the portal from Doctor Strange, but blue team looks like they clean that up quite quickly as they get the checkpoint, as Moon Knight just continues using that portal as a way to continue to stat farm, as looks like red team, they have to regain their position here somehow. The Hela went through the portal to harass the supports, and it looks like she might get away with it, as it looks like the Moon Knight deals with the Jeff and the Luna, as looks like red team is without any supports, but the Human Torch is not dissuaded by this, continuing to try and apply pressure to the blue team despite the odds. However, with blue team continuing to push forward, not a lot of space left before the match comes to an end. Looks like blue team's rocket goes up, as well as they're just firing everything. Every single ult is being fired right now, as it's now or never. Judge, jury, and executioner comes to town. The beacon goes down as Punisher is trying to make something happen. However, the Hela is trying to keep him back, as unfortunately that is a loss for the red team, but a defiant win from the blue team, as their offense and defense were something to be admired that game. Ladies and gentlemen, another great game for us there. As let us take a look at the final scores here, and we will step into post-game commentary here. Chat, How do we feel about that game? That was another rather impressive one. Definitely had more going on than the one where they just kind of stomped, but the Rocket did admittedly hold the ult for quite a bit on the red team while he played them. And the beacons were not as impactful as blue teams. On top of that, the damage that red team was doing was not really there comparatively. They were staying quite a bit close together, which is something that Moon Knight quite likes. However, they had to stay close together because of the Rocket's healing, as well as the Jeff's healing too. So it was kind of rough from them for the start. Looking at their tank choices, was there a tank they could have used that would have served them better here? I don't know. Oh, Jesus, but... The Mr. Fantastic at the start, while an interesting idea, it was unfortunately not really able to break through. They needed something else, maybe something to contend with the Moon Knight, which the Punisher tried to make some plays happen. However, it just wasn't really enough. On the enemy team, their DPSs were doing, well, the Moon Knight was doing phenomenally. Their tanks were also doing quite alright for themselves. We didn't really spectate a lot of their position. However, it does seem like they were doing quite well for themselves that match. The enemy Deadpool especially was harassing them quite a bit. And they didn't really have an effective means of dealing with him. Honestly, the Fantastic was their best answer to that, and that wasn't even that good. Didn't really seem... But to round us out, the red team's Rocket did maintain that ult for quite a bit. I feel like they'd rather they just rip it so that they could win a point, which they were able to once he did, but didn't really seem like it got any further than that first bit. As for the Emma did go negative, which is unfortunate. It just didn't seem like she was able to really do much to control the battlefield. She wasn't really able to provide too much space due to the oppression from the DPSs and Deadpool. Magneto was able to like maintain their position, whereas the Deadpool was able to get them more ground, which is, I believe, something that they tried to do with Emma and Deadpool, but it just didn't seem to be as effective. But I believe that is the end of my thoughts on that match. Let us get looking at the next match then. Need a little bit more coffee though. I do need to switch around between people more. I have a hard time following where the action is. I tend to get stuck to the same people, and I need to stop that. Need to stop that. Alright. We have 2 more matches here. 2 more matches to get through, chat. Alright, and this one here is going to be... Why you ban Elsa? So... Interesting. Damn, 10 minutes on the dot. Holy. Wait, this is a tournament? Oh my god, okay. Alright. Let's see how this goes. Chat room. Join us today as on Clintar's symbiotic surface, the Yummies versus the Space. Both teams here hoping to take home the gold, as right now, team leaders are starting their bans. We got some great plays here. We have FNAF Foxy on the red team, as it looks like Gambit is banned on the red team. Blue team looking to decide for their ban, which they ban Strategist Deadpool, which is an interesting pick, as now they're looking for a hero to protect. As for which character they're going to protect, it could be anyone's guess. A strong support could actually be a good option here. However, maybe a interesting... Oh, it looks like Cloak and Dagger is the one protected. Interesting pick there. We're looking at what the red team is going to protect, and they pick Tankpool. Little did they know, red team is going to be looking to ban who here? What would be a good ban for them? They're going for another Groot ban. We have not seen a game with a Groot ever since the series started, and I doubt we will see him further. Banning Black Widow so that their teammates will not be able to throw. As looking at blue team, they are going to look for someone to protect here. Who are they going to work on protecting? Looks like they're going to be protecting Namor. Namor, quite an oppressive duelist. Looking at red team again. Oh my god. Red team is going to be trying to protect someone here. As for who they're going to protect, who knows? A lot of good picks were already picked to be protected. They pick Invisible Woman. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into the final bans here. As for what bans we're going to be getting for this last round, we're looking at a Hela ban rather than a Phoenix ban. And as for the blue team, they ban Magic.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Red team looking like they're going to be going with a interesting comp here with Invis, Cloak and Dagger, Doctor Strange, Tankpool, Spider-Man, and Elsa Bloodstone. Whereas blue team, they're going to be looking for Doctor Strange, Penny, Cloak and Dagger, White Fox, Namor. Never mind, it looks like the Doctor Strange swapped to a different player as they swap to Elsa. As Yummies are up for defense first, as we start to look at the first round of a tournament game, which I've not actually seen before.
Usually I create my own.
Tiger Division has compiled quite a dossier on your family, Miss Bloodstone.
Penny can be quite dangerous on defensive maps, as she's not one of the better tanks by any means. However, I do feel like that she could be quite a threat if not dealt with. I'm not sure about that placement of the nest, but we will see how it goes. As let's take a look at how red team will begin their assault, as Spider-Man swings on in with his retro skin, as he's looking for some sort of play here, but he's not able to really fish for it, so he goes on back. Looks like Dr. Strange is continuing to push forward. However, he is taking quite a bit of a beating here, as let's take a look at Elsa, who goes in but is unable to really get any kills there. It looks like the Penny is getting quite a bit of damage in with her mines that she's just chucking over, which is good enough. As was that the... It looks like the Space is trying to create some for them as the Penny mines go down. However, the Namor does deal with the Spider-Man. White Fox deals with the Deadpool. Doctor Strange on point, and it does look like he goes down, as well as the Space's offense is starting to break, as it looks like they're the ones losing space, as their team is starting to get pushed back to their spawn. The Yummies starting to pick up their advantage here, as looks like they are moving to this position to defend. Looking at the Penny here, it seems like she gets a stun on Quatra comes in, but it is stopped as we have some ults getting ready to be fired off here, as we have a Moon Knight on the enemy team as they're trying to make something happen. Spider time happens, looking to cause a little bit of disruption. However, it looks like both Cloak and Dagger ults are going off at the same time as the moon haunts the battlefield. The Yummy is going to have to find a way to deal with that. Elsa goes down for the Yummies, as so does their White Fox named White Fox, as Namor's trying to hold this line. However, with Penny down and with the Invis ult up, it is too much for them to deal with as they lose this first engagement. Will they be able to reclaim this lost territory, or will they just focus on defending the objective sites beyond it? Let us take a look, as looks like the enemy, looks like the Spaces, Elsa and their Moon Knight shred the Yummies Elsa, as it looks like they're going to be continuing to be oppressive to the Yummies here. The Space starting to create space again as they begin to try and push forward. However, having a little bit of trouble here, as that Elsa ult is big, as it takes out three people go down from the use of that ult, as they're able to push this advantage, creating even more space, as it does seem like that Doctor Strange will go down, and it does look like the Yummies are in a bit of a difficult position here. They're gonna need quite a bit to get them through here. Looking at the Namor, looking at the Penny. Penny's not able to set up, especially with a Moon Knight constantly harassing her and her team. Namor going around the side, trying to get some sort of play here, as it does look like the Elsa gets knocked down. However, the ult was not big. However, with the moon haunting the enemy team, looks like the Spaces Elsa is eating good tonight, as that is a triple kill, a quadra kill from the Spaces Elsa. Holy!
Now might be a good time to stop them. Better stop that vehicle!
Definitely looks like the Space has a pro player here, and their name is FNAF Foxy, as they are continuing this offense here, going after the supports that were not able to reposition, as unfortunately, without those supports, Yummy's team is going to start falling apart here, as the DPS, aided by the Doctor Strange, are going to continue to apply pressure, as it does look like the Doctor Strange has been harassed a little bit back. However, it's not going to be enough, as it doesn't look... Oh my god! Spider-Man on the Yummies team just got shredded, as Namor is trying to set up some sort of defensive line, as in comes the Cloak and Dagger ult. However, the Space responds in kind with the Invis ult, as looks like both teams are at a standstill. Once these ults go down, teams are going to start dying. However, the Space has a Cloak and Dagger ult of their own. Penny ult going in, hoping to make something happen. However, she's getting stuck. She is stuck on the point, and she goes down. Unfortunately, it looks like the Yummies are not in a good position. They're gonna have to really make something happen. However, the Moon Knight does not want them leaving that position. Spider-Man trying to do something here, however, getting walled off before falling up. However, the Elsa is back here, yet she forces him back as both the Moon and Deadpool use their ult. Shields go up for the Yummies to try and defend this point as they're trying to make something happen here. However, it looks like they're actually getting pushed back a little bit. However, too much damage is being dealt to the Yummies by Space as they get shredded up on point, and the payload has been fully delivered.
3. Time to switch things up, including which
Ladies
side
and
you're
gentlemen.
on.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a first round, as now it's going to be the Yummies' turn to attack, and we will see how they do. Space already off to a great start. They had a little bit of a rough beginning, however, they were able to find a way to punch through. Their Elsa is definitely quite a bit better than the Yummies Elsa, which is unfortunate to say. However, there is a bit of a skill gap between them. Space is going to start setting up as
30 seconds before you attack.
doesn't look like they
Get
need
ready.
a Penny to defend, as the Yummies, their Penny is still quite confident in their capabilities. They're not going to swap off just yet. They have a Strange, they have an Elsa. They do have quite good characters to help them with this attack. Looking at the Space here,
Battle starts in 5.
they're going to be playing a
4,
little bit
3,
forward here,
2,
which is an interesting
1.
play, as
All you need to do is
looks like
capture the
Deadpool
mission.
and Elsa are going to be taking point. As looking at the Elsa, she gets some early damage in. Moon Knight finds the Spider-Man and deals with him quite quickly. And since the Yummies are all bunched up right now, that means that the Moon Knight is going to be able to break their damage. Going to be dealing a lot of damage to them, as it does look like the Deadpool ult goes off as he's harassing he's harassing the Yummies Doctor Strange, as it does look like the Yummies also goes down to the Space's Doctor Strange, as it does look like they're getting pushed back a bit. However, they're still keeping the Yummies assault back. Looks like the Spider-Man trying to make something happen, as he barely is not able to, as looks like the Yummies Elsa also goes down trying to deal with the Moon Knight. This offense not happening as the Moon begins to haunt them. Doctor Strange goes down. Penny looks like she is next, as so is the Invis, as the team needs to start regrouping yesterday.
Anyone willing to help?
The Space, now pushed up to their spawn, doesn't want them doing anything, as looks like we have some aggressive plays happening here. Doctor Strange dealing with the Penny Nest. Penny trying to secure their advance, however, they're not being allowed to, as the Spider-Man is once again dealt by the Space's Elsa, as they're just not able to get anything to work. Spider-Man swapping to Phoenix here, hoping to make something happen, as Quatra gets shredded there. They're firing their own, however, it doesn't quite work out too well. Deadpool using his ult on the Phoenix, who's having a hard time actually hitting people, which causes them to take quite a lot of damage as the Moon comes in once again, dealing a lot of damage to the Yummies. Elsa goes down, as so does the Emma and the Cloak and Dagger. Invis ult goes up, but it looks like it's too little too late. Eye of Agamotto from the Yummies Doctor Strange, however, not really a way to capitalize on it, as the Phoenix comes in. Ult doesn't really hit anything, unfortunately, as Looks like the Yummies assault is, they're trying desperately to claw something through, but they are getting shut down at every turn by the space, as looks like, doesn't really look like they're gonna be able to make too much happen here. The Yummies coming back in, trying to make something happen. They're setting up a portal, hoping that this can get them through. Where will this portal go? Directly on top of point. As holy, Yummies now on point. The space has to fight into it to get them off. However, they were able to before, and they are able to now, as they are able to shred the Yummies off of the point with ease. Without a portal and without many options, it looks like the Yummies are going to have to take a loss here. Emma trying to do something here, however, with Moon Knight dealing with their supports, and their Elsa continuing to harass. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to do too much. The Doctor Strange goes down, however, as it looks like the Yummies take the loss in this tournament match. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an exciting match. Unfortunately for the Yummies, they got kind of shredded there. They lost their footing at the start and just had a hard time catching up after that. So let's go into a bit of post-game commentary, and let's see what happened. So, goddamn. God damn. Alright, so what are some things we could start out with? One, Moon Knight continues to eat good. It's really easy to tell a good Moon Knight from a bad Moon Knight, and we've been seeing a lot of good Moon Knights. Unfortunately for the Yummies here, their team was just getting out-shredded. The damage output they had compared to the damage output that the space had, it was just non-comparable. They both had Elsa, however, with a Spider-Man that wasn't able to get any picks on any supports, against a Moon Knight who is constantly dealing with, constantly applying a lot of pressure to the Yummies consistently, whereas Spider-Man has to like go in, hopes that he gets a pick, and then has to bail out. Just didn't really work out too well at the end of the day. The Penny, unfortunately, was not able to really do much this game, it seemed. Their setup at the start was alright, however, there's some things they could have improved on. The nest placement was one of them. Instead of at the defense at the start when they were defending, instead of placing it behind those pillar of crates, they could have placed it next to the health pack in the side room, so that they would have control over that. The spaces also was honestly insane. They deserve that Lord. Like, honestly. If some of you are wondering why Elsa is banned every game, it's because of that. Now, you can make a lot of characters pop off if you're good enough, but Elsa can be quite a menace. She's going to be nerfed a decent bit next half of the season, so we'll have to see where she's at after that. But for right now, for this season, for this half of the season, and as well as last season, she's a menace. I feel like the supports were doing the best they could. It's just that the supports on the Yummies had to start healing a lot more than the supports on the Spaces team, which is unfortunate. And I do think that is going to be the rest of my thoughts here. Yeah, unfortunately, Spider-Man wasn't able to do much here, which is unfortunate. Right. But yeah, that is why we ban Elsa in these games, chat. That is a really good one, can ruin your day. What's a character I've wanted to learn? I really like her gameplay loop. It's just I can't aim for shit. So not really good for me, unfortunately. Maybe that'll be a character I stream in the future for trying to practice as them. Who knows? Alright. This is gonna be the last code I have access to, chat. Last one. I'm a long way. It looks like another tournament match, so let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Join us today as Gorm Gaming and the Space battle it out at Midtown in the Empire of Eternal Night. Another tournament game for us today as both teams get ready, as looks like quite a few Spider-Men. Looks like we have we have the same lineup from the Space as well as that menacing Elsa. Gambit gets banned here. Oh god, hang on, let me pause real quick. I need more coffee. I forgot to have a bit more. My god, the coaster I have under my coffee was stuck to the cup. What the hell? Oh my god, yeah, I felt my voice breaking, so I needed to, Alright, back to it. Blue team banning the Elsa here, which is pretty good play, as we've seen from last game. As let's take a look at what they will be protecting here. Maybe they'll protect Groot, honestly. Maybe we'll finally see a Groot game. Who knows? However, they protect the Cloak and Dagger, which, honestly, fair enough. Looking at red team, let's see what they will be protecting here as they protect Tankpool. Tankpool shown to be quite oppressive at times. However, it does look like he's going to be nerfed next season, so we'll have to see how that plays out as red team, the Space, goes to ban Groot. Gorm Gaming, let's see what they have to ban on the backswing. Let's see if it's something that hurts them, as it does look like a Loki ban comes down. We don't really see a lot of Loki games in these replays, but still a solid choice nonetheless, as that could be a second Luna ult, that could be a second Invis ult. Looks like Gorm Gaming looking to protect Daredevil here, as I believe that if I see a dive character being protected, I would want to protect Namor personally. However, that is just me. I do not play professionally, as it looks like Invis is protected here, another pretty good character here, as it will really shut me up if the Space bans Namor here, which would be the funniest fucking thing to shut me up. However, who knows what they'll be picking. They're deliberating quite a bit, using quite a lot of the time, as they ban Venom. Interesting pick. I don't really see a Venom ban often. He's not really a character on my radar to ban, as Phoenix is banned on Gorm Gaming scene, but hey, maybe that's why the Space are professional tournament players and I am not. Let's take a look at what we have to play here, as it looks like the space is looking with The Thing, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Namor, Cloak and Dagger, and Invis, whereas Gorm Gaming is going to be going with Penny, Emma, Namor, Cloak and Dagger, Hela, and Rocket. Gorm Gaming up on the defense first, as we'll have to see how they handle this, as we have another Penny on defense. Very interesting. Let's see if this Penny performs a bit better. They are moving out quite quickly thanks to the web mechanics. Penny is going to be getting a 4th web soon, so look out for that. That could be quite funny, as looks like Penny is setting up her nest here. Red team is going to have to try and break through. They do have quite a defensive team, Gorm Gaming, despite the Groot ban, as it does look like they might be able to hold Emma out here running up front to try and hold them back early. However, pushed back quite instantly, as it does look like they are able to deal with that Spider-Man that jumps in. Spider-Man immediately swapping a Moon Knight because of it. Looks like they're starting to push in, as The Thing baits out all of the Penny Mines, which is something I did not know you could do. Very cool. As anti-heal from the Namor forces the tanks to get pushed back a bit, as they're trying to break into this defense here. Looks like the Invis is starting to... I was told at the start that this is a goated Invis, so we will see if they really are. They are doing what they can to keep the team alive, as it does look like they're able to take down the enemy Namor, as well as the... Oh my god, in comes this DPS Hela coming in, shredding the enemy team, as despite the rocket beacon, they still deal with a lot, as it looks like their team is... Looks like Gorm Gaming is starting to fall apart here from the overwhelming offense of the space. Chat, looks like they're going to be able to get this first point, as looks like Foxy over here is going to try and hold them off on the side, as Khonshu will hold them off at the front. Penny tries to get in to buy them time. However, Moon Knight is able to deal with her, as well as the Black Panther that I didn't even notice they swapped to, more than I have to keep track of, as Moon Knight is trying to deal with that Penny, as she is eventually dealt with. Blue team's gonna have to reposition here, try and make something good happen, as Gorm Gaming's Hela is getting pushed back quite a bit, unable to get really any picks off here from the looks of it. Looks like the Spaces team is... Spaces team is currently overwhelming them, as it seems, as in comes the Invis ult to react to the Emma's ult, able to prevent them from doing too much, as looks like Invis deals with the Hela. Unfortunately, looks like Black Panther is trying to make something happen, as looks like the Luna goes down. Black Panther satisfied with that. Spider time happening, as well as a rocket beacon. Rocket beacon, I think, went down, as Penny is way out of position, getting pushed right back in. Penny in the corner, unable to get out. However, it does look like she will live another day. Black Panther coming into the Spaces backline again. Doesn't get any picks that time. However, he knows better than to overextend. Looks like Gorm Gaming's Hela gets struck down yet again, as Hell is unleashed. However, Gorm Gaming responds with a Cloak and Dagger ult, as they're trying their damnedest to prevent this offense. However, looks like the Space wants to continue to apply pressure. They're willing to spend ults to try and fight through it, as Moon Knight deals yet again with the Black Panther. Seeing the Emma on the side gets struck down. Rocket Beacon brought back the Black Panther, but will not be able to bring back the Emma. Emma switching to Magneto, it seems. Moon Knight continuing to apply devastating pressure to the enemy team, as looks like Doctor Strange is continuing to hold them up. Doctor Strange trying to body block the Penny as well as shield her so she can't get any healing. Looks like a shield is looks like hell is unleashed. However, inside an Invis bubble, it will not do much. However, the Invis shield goes down as the amplifier goes up, as they start trying to push back, as the Space's offense seems to have cracked, as it looks like both DPSs go down. They're going to have to push back. They're going to have to regroup, wait for the DPSs to come back and reclaim lost ground. There's the Daredevil that was unbanned, as it looks like the Black Panther coming in, dealing with the DPSs yet again, as looks like Black Panther looking at the Invis as well. Invis goes down on top of it. He's not done yet though, as, oh no, he actually is done. He is satisfied with what he's done. He's reclaimed the position, and now Gorm Gaming does look like they're back in this. Looks like the Namor is trying to hold them, trying to apply some pressure with Switch Herds, but Penny is not letting them. Penny Nest is gone. Penny trying to keep herself alive. Good movement on the Penny. However, that start at the bit kind of caused them to fumble. Black Panther trying to run back away to protect himself, as Magneto trying to hold the front line as the Space switches to the Thing to continue their advance to deal with both the Black Panther and possibly also the Daredevil, as Luna ult goes up, responded to with a Magneto ult. Doctor Strange ult goes down, doesn't really get too much off of it as Black Panther deals with their Luna. Looks like Namor deals with their Black Panther, but Black Panther is revived as Gorm Gaming seems like they reclaim this territory. Daredevil looking for an extra pick to try and stab Pat a bit, trying to hold them back, as it does look like he's kind of biting off a bit more than he could chew. The man without fear should have been scared there, as the amplifier goes up, as it looks like the Space is not ready to give in just yet. Both support cells going down as it's clobbering time in Spider Town, as it looks like the Space has broken into this again, pulling the Penny out of her nest to try and get her out. Penny activating Spider Time to try and save herself as she runs off. She is not going to fight this. They are going to give up this point, it seems like. As it seems like a portal goes down, Namor trying to respond against it, and it looks like it works out as the Space manages to get in on the final route to Avengers Tower. Penny is very cut off from her team. She's going to be at their spawn, it seems like. She's going to be trying to make something work, however, isn't able to because they know she is there.
Only 60 seconds left.
Spider-Man trying to make something happen, however, Bucky saw them off as the enemy team's Namor starting to try and make something happen for the defense, as no more Black Panther, it seems. Black Panther was actually kind of working though, but maybe not here, they decided, as it does look like they're going to be slowly pushed back, as the oppression from Gorm Gaming is just not enough. Looking back at the Invis, it does look like that. Oh, in comes the Namor ult, dealing with the Invis as well as the Moon Knight. Looks like the Space has been broken in their attack again. It looks like they're going to be pushed back to their spawn, as unless the Spider-Man, it looks like
The current score
the attack from the space has been held back, and we're going to be going into round 2. Where Gorm Gaming, they have to have an outstanding offense here in order to win this. Looking at what we're switching to here, looks like they're going to try out a dive comp from the looks of it. Not sure why the Black Panther's icon is broken there on the replay viewer, but who cares, as looks like we're going for a Black Panther, Magneto, Daredevil sort of play with Cloak and Dagger and Rocket as supports, possibly also a Penny here maybe, which is interesting. Looking at the space, they're going to be swapping, they're going to be keeping this team, they're going to be swapping out the Namor for a Hela though, which I don't know about going into a dive comp, but how would they know? They do, however, have a thing to help out against that, as let's take a look at how they will treat this defense. Penny on offense is always a little bit suspect, however, that's not to say it cannot work. She can be quite aggressive in the right hands, so it does not seem like she's able to really rocket forward though, as she's going to be going around to the side to try and flank. Black Panther swapping to Hawkeye, hoping to try and contend with them a little bit, maybe get some picks on some supports in the back line. Doesn't really look like anyone's really going down though, as the Thing does look like he tries to go after the Hawkeye, however is forced back. Moon Knight continuing to oppress, as does look like Hawkeye goes down but is revived. However, he did take one of the supports with them. Daredevil taking out the other, however, Daredevil being taken out by the Thing, but will it matter with both supports dead? Gorm Gaming is continuing their offense, as does look like that with that early play, they have gained quite a bit of lost ground that it looks like the space is going to have to reclaim if they want to continue to buy themselves a bit more time. The Thing out here continuing to try and fight against, however, peeling back for the Daredevil that ran after the supports. Doesn't really look like they were able to deal with them. However, a portal coming in to assist the front line. Shields go up. Magneto attempting to focus down the Invis, but the Invis shield blocks the ult, giving her team more ult time to hopefully deal with this, and they capitalize, deal with the Rocket, deal with the Cloak, dealing with the Hawkeye, dealing with the Penny, as it does seem like they have regained lost ground from the initial fight. Hela constantly picking at the Gorm Gaming team, as Penny looks like she's trying to run in but is unable to really get in, with Doctor Strange holding her back. It seems like, I think that's Daredevil caught out of position, which is unfortunate, especially with a Moon Knight chasing after them and a Thing. He gets revived by the Rocket Beacon, however, as it does look like the Penny does deal with the Doctor Strange, as now it's Spider time. However, they respond with they're responding with a lot of ults here, as it does look like they're starting to damage Gorm Gaming's position with Hawkeye and Rocket down. It does look like they're going to be pushed back, and it looks like with both supports down, they're going to have to fall back and wait for them to come back, otherwise they can't gain any more ground here. Magneto, though, trying to look for a pick on Hela, which the Daredevil assists with, but he dies for it, but thank God Rocket is here to help him out. Hawkeye looking for a good play here. He's not missing, however, oh my God! Eye of Agamotto into a Moon Hansu, shredding the enemy, shredding Gorm Gaming's defenses. as they are unable to sustain that attack after such a combo. However, it does look like they have some ults to use. The Invis does still have an ult for the Spaces team. However, Gorm Gaming does have both Rocket, Daredevil, and Magneto ult to work around with. Daredevil looking for some sort of play as he's going after the supportive defensive line. However, he is not able to. He baits out the Invis, but are they going to be able to do anything with it? It doesn't look like they're able to fend it off, as it doesn't look like their attack really gets in. However, they are now making a sustained battle of attrition in which Daredevil intends to win. However, it doesn't look like he's able to really deal the final bit of damage. Hela goes down for the space, and it looks like Moon Knight is trying to deal enough damage, but is taken out by the Daredevil. The Daredevil's kind of gaming here. Looks like the space uses the Cloak and Dagger ult to try and give them a bit of time as Clobbering Time comes out. However, little did he know that it's actually Spider Time coming in, as looks like he's trying to deal with the Daredevil that's been harassing the backline, as Daredevil is dealt with quite nicely. The Vishanti's power doesn't really look like he hit anyone with it. However, it doesn't matter,
0, 2,
as
2.
it doesn't look like Gorm Gaming was able to break the Space's defense, as that is another match in the books. The Space taking the gold in the Empire of Eternal Night, as it does look like the Hela was kind of popping off a bit there, I'm not gonna lie. As that is that, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's start talking a bit of post-game commentary, why don't we, eh? So, let me have a little bit of coffee first before I start talking. Okay. So, things I noticed from that match is that, honestly, I do think Gorm Gaming's dive game is quite good. Believe it or not. Why do I say that? Well, they were playing into, like, Namor and Thing, but they were still able to get some, like, decent hits off. Like, they were still able to deal with the backline in the offense game, and that did lead them to gain quite a bit of ground over the Space. So there is credit to be had there. As for Space, though, that Invis, they were able to react to and adjust to the pressure from the dive accordingly. And whilst the backline didn't always defend, they were able to really get deep in and dig in their heels and hold them off, at least until someone like Thing or Moon Knight arrived. It does seem like Foxy is like the MVP, is like, I wouldn't call them the hard carry, but they are like a driving force of the Space, it does seem like. Unfortunately, it didn't seem like the Penny was too, well, they were able to buy time, and their webs do provide a little bit of healing for the team, so that's nice. However, I don't know if it worked too well for the team comp, though I guess with Venom banned, maybe these teams know each other, you know? Maybe the Venom ban was targeted. Maybe one of them's like insane on Venom. But Thing was actually reacting quite well. He dealt with the Penny mines quite easily, as well as he's able to apply pressure to the to Gorm Gaming's tanks, as well as be able to pull back to provide support against the Black Panther and Daredevils that were bombarding the strategists. DPSs were doing all they could as well. Moon Knight remains quite impactful. He's never really like a heavy hitter DPS, however, he does chip away at you enough that it is quite devastating when he really gets going. I do think that will be it for now, though, as outstanding plays there from the tournament scene that I do have to thank Zan for sending in. Great matches all around, and I do think that this is honestly a very fun thing to do. It's interesting to see how different levels of play actually play, you know? And also doing the casting for these matches is very fun. However, these are only made possible with your support, fellas, so consider this a call to action now that we have gone through all of the codes I was sent. I do not plan to do any until the season resets. However, once season, what are we on? 7? Once season 7.5 rolls around, I would like you guys in the YouTube comments, or if you actually know me, message me some replay codes you guys have. It could be literally anything. It could be your ranked games, your quick play games. It could be tournament games. It doesn't even have to be your replays, as I will commentate over them. I will cast them, give my thoughts at the end of each match, and we will see how they go. So that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching again. Make sure to tell me matches you want casted over, and I will try and get to them. I should probably get going though, because I can feel my voice starting to give out, as that is gonna be all for me today. I don't know what we're gonna do tomorrow, but I do know we're gonna do it. As always, Hey Manager, you've been amazing to have. Thank you so much for stopping by. See you guys next time. Sayonara.